I'm finally going back to Hong Kong. The first time since December 2019. You probably already guessed it, but COVID kept me out for 3 years, until now. So I've got a little story I'd like to share with you all about my love for Hong Kong. I've always been interested in new technology as a kid. For example, my cousins had a TV with a Pong style game built into their TV. Yep, a video game built into their TV. Every Sunday night we would go as a family and visit, except I was stuck in the TV room playing the built-in video game. I was hooked. I asked my parents to get me a portable Pac-Man, but they didn't, because I guess it was pretty expensive at the time. So instead I ended up with my first video game ever, Astro Wars, because it was a lot cheaper than Pac-Man. Turned out to be a pretty fun game at the time. My first video games console was an Interton VC4000. I had one game, it was called Monster Man. You could only buy games from a place called Stancash. I had Intellivision, a VIC-20, a Commodore 64, a Amiga 500, paid for that one myself. I remember renting a Nintendo Entertainment System from the local video shop for 2 nights just to play the latest AFL game.
Out of bounds, on the ball.
And then I purchased a PlayStation 1. Believe it or not, I still have my original PlayStation 1. Yep, that's the original one. Here's where the story gets interesting. I was an early internet adopter back in 1995. Not much happening on the net back then. Dial-up internet was a thing. Aussie Email was my internet provider, and the speed was just 28k. Laying a website with pictures just seemed like quite an achievement back then. I remember buying a PlayStation 1 in 1996. Games were like $90 back then, which equates to about $183 in today's money. Yeah, very expensive. I remember overhearing someone talking about $35 games. I said, where? I'm in. They told me they were copies of original games, and you needed your PlayStation modded or chipped. How do you do that? Well, $100 later and rocking up to a dodgy house, my PlayStation 1 was finally modded. I started purchasing games from a paper called The Trading Post, if you remember it. Yep, that's where we found the games for like $35. Wasn't great, but hey, better than 90. So I thought, why not start searching the internet? No Google back then. We had to use a search engine called Alta Vista on dial-up. So you can imagine it wasn't that easy. I searched and searched and searched looking for cheap PlayStation 1 games. I found some websites. Remember, internet scams weren't a thing back then. The PlayStation 1 games were like $10 to $15, which I found incredible. I thought I struck gold. Big but though. Had to send money to Hong Kong. Firstly, how do I do that? Do I give someone on the other side of the world my home address? Someone I don't even know? Well, I did. I ordered 3 games to start, and the process was send an email with my order, go to the local bank, send money via a bank wire to Hong Kong. This cost about $30 just to send the money. I had to wait 24 to 48 hours for the money to clear, sit tight, and hope I get the games. 2 weeks later, guess what? They arrived. I actually couldn't believe it. A couple of weeks later, I tried this again. This time I ordered 10 games. Went through the same process. 2 weeks later, I actually received the games. I was shocked again. So anyway, I thought I'll get some mates together who also had a PlayStation 1, place an order for 20 games so we could share the costs of shipping and transferring the money. And yep, all 20 games arrived. At this point, a bunch of us were ordering like every 4 weeks as the games were being released thick and fast. Fast forward to Christmas 1997. My mum and auntie buy me a ticket to Hong Kong. Not one to ever be ungrateful for receiving gifts. This one, I actually was a little bit ungrateful. They then explained to me they wanted me to go to Hong Kong to meet the person who was selling me the PlayStation 1 games. After their explanation, I was actually a little bit excited. I didn't know what to expect, as I'd never even been out of the country before, let alone a Southeast Asian country that I knew nothing about. Wasn't even sure if they spoke English. Remember, internet in 1997 was still primitive, no Google. My mum and auntie actually said that they would come to Hong Kong with me, which actually put me a bit more at ease. So March of 1998, off we go to Hong Kong. We arrive at Hong Kong's international airport, which is now closed. The airport's actually located in Kowloon, which is in the heart of the city. It actually involves landing between high-rise buildings, which sounded a bit daunting at the time. However, we landed safely. The aircraft doors opened, something smelt not quite right. I thought, what have I got myself into? Remember, never been overseas before. Got past immigration, got our luggage, walked out into the airport, and I saw McDonald's. I was so relieved. Yep, that smell was still there, but it didn't seem as bad, as now at least I had something to eat. So we got in a taxi and off to a hotel we went. We stayed at a place called the Kimberley Hotel in Kowloon. Remember, this is all foreign to me. Check into a hotel, my mum actually says, okay, it's about time we go outside and look around. It's about midday at this point. First thing I saw was a French patisserie, and 10 metres past that, a camera shop with all kinds of electronics, cameras, lenses, you name it. I had a big smile on my face. Walked to the main road, which is called Nathan Road, and I was overwhelmed by the signage hanging off all the buildings. And remember, this was during the day. At night time, neon signs lit it up like you've never seen before. At this point, I heard about pirated movies which were actually filmed with a video camera in a cinema and put onto videotape. Remember those things? Not in Hong Kong though, they were a step ahead. I found CDs with movies on them. Yep, VCDs. It was a thing. Video games and now movies on CDs? I was in heaven. After a few days, we made our way to Shep Kip Mei via the Hong Kong MTR, which is where William lived. I'm not sure if that was his real name or not, but that was the person I was getting the PlayStation games from. I'd never met or spoken to William, only form of communication was via email. So we arrive at Shep Kip Mei station and take the exit from the direction William sent me via email. No iPhones, no smartphones, so I had to write them down on a piece of paper. So we get to an old building, which is a bit of a dodgy start. Started asking around for someone called William. Anyway, after a few minutes, William mysteriously appears. I awkwardly shake his hand, takes me into his office, and it's full of PlayStation games. Hundreds and hundreds. I couldn't believe it. It felt like when Indiana Jones finally got the Ark. William said to me in broken English, go ahead and pick out some games. Didn't know where to start. It was a bit overwhelming. So I've got a few of the latest releases, built up the courage and asked him about the pirated VCD movies. Guess what? He had them too. After about an hour hanging out with William, I picked out 50 or so games, about 10 pirated movies on VCD, mostly recent releases, got on the train and went back to our hotel room. At night time, we ventured out. As soon as night hits in Hong Kong, out come the VCDs, the PlayStation copies, the Nike copy t-shirts, the Ray-Ban sunglasses, and all for a few bucks. And this is how my love of Hong Kong started. I've since been back to Hong Kong over 15 times after that first trip, and in 2 weeks, I'll be going back. Finally. I can't wait. This time though, I'll be filming a daily vlog for the 10 days I'm there. So please, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any videos. And comment down below if there's anything you want me to check out. My itinerary is open. See you in Hong Kong.